Right before we started this call, I felt called to pull a card for us, and I'm going to read that to you right now. So the card is called Awakening Genius, and it is this old kind of shamanic medicine woman surrounded by this like rainbow activation of light. And the message here is for the throat chakra, and it's all about the spirit of creative expression, knowing that your ideas matter, bringing forth new information. So it says, the ancient Greeks believed that each person has a specific genius that acted like a spirit guide, inspiring you with new ideas to further your evolution as an individual, as well as the evolution of all humanity. You could say that genius is the spirit of creative expression, and when you tune into it, amazing things happen. When your genius awakens, you realize that you do not need to do everything yourself. You have an inspired, dedicated, wise helper on your side. Today, you can imagine cultivating a playful relationship with this extraordinary spirit. If you can, you'll recognize you don't have to solve every problem with the knowledge, memories, and experiences you already have accrued. Your intellect, in this case, serves as a channel for this creative spirit that can filter in new information. And how you forge this connection is to get out of your own way and simply allow it to work through you. The word genius comes from the Latin word meaning gingery, meaning to bring forth or birth, and shares the same root as the word generate. You are now at this moment about to give birth to a new mode of expression, and a powerful one at that. Commit to partnering with your genius, and only deep satisfaction and success will result. Today is a day when your inspired ideas matter. Boom.
My goodness. From the moment you showed me that card, I just had full body chills. And also, did you notice it's 29, the number, and that's 11, and today's the 11/11 portal. And it's so in alignment with where you and I both are being intuitively led to, and it connects back to the intuition. And then as you pulled that card too, so about a week ago, I had this spider right outside of my window that it's a barn spider, and it like made this amazing web, and when the light catches it, it's this majestic rainbow sheen. Right away when I saw it, I was like, this is some sort of spirit guide. Zach, my husband, is super in tune with spirit too, and I was like, hey Zach, this spider is communicating something to me. I need to know what kind of spider this is. What is it? And he's like, I don't know. And then he started saying something else, and he's like, it's a barn spider. And I looked it up, and it actually was that. And a barn spider is a mystic guide that is here to like communicate messages with you and help you weave together your inner wisdom. The messages were so aligned. So I know you're very in tune with like spirit animals and angel numbers and all that as well. And we both have talked about how that connects us to our intuition. And it's so beautiful too that every time we talk, it's immediately magic.
It's so beautiful what happens when people connect, when they're willing to just be a channel for whatever comes through. And no matter how nervous you are about just like letting go and allowing the creativity to flow through, like that's where the magic ends up happening.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna jump into introducing you officially. Welcome to the Grit Grow Rise podcast. Today, I'm super excited to introduce someone who is so special and dear to my heart. Danielle is an intuition activation guide and energy healer with Reiki Boston. She has received many clear confirmations and communication from Spirit that she is here to help people activate their intuition by learning how to listen to their intuition and trust themselves. Welcome, Danielle.
Yay, Tiffany. So fun to chat with you always whenever we connect. I'm like so excited to see what will come through.
Me too. Okay, so let's jump right in. Tell me where you first felt like you were being led to your intuition. Did you have a moment where you realized you were out of tune with it and then you were led to tune into that inner wisdom?
Yeah. It's interesting because when this period was happening in my life, when my intuition was coming online, I was really paying very close attention. So I like actually was journaling and taking notes. So I have documented like so many times where my intuition led me to something, and then it ended up creating something beautiful happening in my life. So yeah, it was around 2019, leading up to some really big life changes and choices that I made at the end of 2019. But it was almost like with each trusting, I would receive a sign or an indication that I was meant to follow something. And it wouldn't be rational or logical. It would just be like, definitely sign up for that class that you know nothing about. It just feels right. Or definitely this person you're meant to connect deeply with, and you don't know what it's about, just go connect with them. And little by little, I got braver because I started noticing how when I follow that kind of spark inside of myself that I felt like was guiding me, it ended up leading me into very fruitful, generative, and like alive situations and expressions. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I know before we have also talked about resistance. When you feel like you hear a message or you know you've heard a message and you feel like it is your intuition, is there a part of you that still doubts that and goes into like, was that my intuition? Or do you have this process where you go through a resistance, where you resist what your intuition is guiding you to?
Yeah, definitely. I think the further outside of my comfort zone that intuition is guiding me, meaning like the more fear I have around what the heck it's telling me to do, the more resistance will show up. But I guess like, yeah, my biggest piece of advice for anyone who is trying to increase their intuition is to keep an evidence journal, whether you keep it mentally or physically, like an actual evidence journal of quote unquote, my intuition is telling me to do this thing. And then I do it, and then what happens? Because building faith is your biggest muscle, so that each time it's pushing you toward your comfort zone and a little bit outside of that, you can lean on the faith you have from prior experiments in this. And that's actually what gets me to do it scared and push myself a little bit when I feel safe enough to do so.
Absolutely. It's that expression too, feeling the fear and doing it anyways. And I
Mm-hmm.
totally agree with keeping some sort of documentation or journal so that you can see when you did listen to the intuition where it led to. 2 days ago, I was doing a breathwork session and I saw these two triangles coming together. Here, I'm actually going to show you my journal. And in the middle, it was this void space. And it's like we will have foresight that comes from our intuition. It's before the event where it's telling us, talk to this person, sign up for this course, go to this location. And then it's like in the void, we have these insights that come through where we're noticing what's happening. And it's afterwards where we have the
Mm.
hindsight. Also, knowing that's the cycle, that sometimes we don't know it's our intuition or we don't have that confirmation until afterwards, where we
Totally.
yeah, it's like you go through the experience, you trust what's coming through, that foresight, that intuitive hit, do this or say this or go here. And then when you do step out in faith and go into that unknown, even though it's scary, when you push through that resistance and you get yourself into this vortex space, then you're having things come through where you're like, okay, I'm starting to see why I was led to this place
Yep.
in this situation. And then it's afterwards where you do have that confirmation, like that was my intuition guiding me there. And then you're seeing it being all woven together, kind of like the spider. This week
Yep.
we had a rainstorm and the web was completely destroyed. And then I got to see the process of where it came to the center and then it wove back out and then it came back to center. And I feel like that's what our intuition is, coming back to our center. Where are we being guided? Then it's through the weaving, where in the process of weaving, we're like, I'm not really sure where this is leading. And then we come back to the center where we're like, yeah, that was our intuition.
1,000,000%. I would say that most of the time I know what the what is, meaning go to that class, take that trip, send that email, but I have no idea what the why is. And the why is the magic and the revelation that shows up later. And it's trusting that you have the what without the why and letting the universe fill in that, like, cosmic creation that's happening and weaving by following your what.
Absolutely. I know we've talked a little bit before too. So you and I both met in Abracadabra Astrology, and
Shout out Shira.
yes, shout out Shira. If you want to go deeper into your birth chart, definitely go check her out. She's that sassy healer Shira on Instagram, and she has an amazing astrology course where she also helps you rewrite these stories and helps you to get in tune with your intuition as well, and
Mhm.
even through Kundalini as well. She also connected Danielle and I. She has this magical
Yes.
vortex of aligned souls where you just meet each other and it's like old family.
Yes, soul sisters.
Yeah, that's what happened with Danielle and I. And I was on this healing journey where I was diving into my Chiron, saw Shira's sponsored ad, and was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I need. And at the time, I didn't realize the impact of following that intuition to
Mhm.
sign up for her free class. And then she reached out and was like, hey, I have this abracadabra astrology and it has this, and we would do story work. And I was having the resistance. It was like I knew I was led to that course, and my intuition was like, just say yes, even though I didn't have the money at the time to pay for it. By saying yes to what we're drawn to, then the map unfolds one step at a time. And
Yes.
then it ended up you and I connected, and we found out everything that you were sharing on our calls. It was resonating at a cellular level where I would get goosebumps and chills. And I'm like, oh my God, I can feel the resonance in my soul. And I know you shared as well when I had joined, you were feeling similar things. So, what led you up to that point? I guess I'm looking at like the higher perspective now that we both have gone through that and noticed how we were connected in that way. What was coming up for you beforehand to lead you to that point? And then how have you grown since saying yes to that decision? And then, yeah,
Mhm.
anything else that's coming up around that? I feel like I just asked a lot of questions.
Yeah. So if it's cool with you, something was coming through like spirit of like a story that I'm meant to tell. And it's
Yes.
like it is answering your question, but not specifically Shira's class.
Okay.
Is it cool with if I
Yeah.
kind of go in that path?
That was originally the question I was going to ask, and then I just went in a lot of different directions. And that's ultimately what I was trying to ask is for you to share an experience where you were led to listen to your intuition and
We're
have
on the
it
same
happen.
we're on the same wavelength right now. We're weaving the same web. Okay. So yeah, this is like the specific story that wants to be shared. So in 2019, I reached a critical level of burnout. I had almost every symptom of anxiety and depression that is on like the medical list if you want to take short-term disability. So my therapist helped me get basically 12 weeks off of work. I was on short-term disability. I was basically like on my couch in zombie mode, very, very depressed, very, very anxious. And I started receiving signs of my next step and what to do, but the signs were really scary. So it involved being in my Reiki master's class. I was doing a chakra meditation and I saw a serpent going up my spine. And I asked my teacher what that was. And she told me that that was my Kundalini energy. Someone overheard that and said to me, I think you're meant to go where I went in India to take this yoga teacher training in Kundalini. It changed my life. I found a sense of purpose. I was so depressed and anxious. And she basically said everything I needed to hear to be like, yes, I'm meant to go to India and become a Kundalini yoga teacher, even though I had never taken a Kundalini yoga class. So, anyway, I was too scared to book the trip at that moment. But one day when I felt desperate enough, I said, okay, universe, if I'm meant to go to India, send me a sign. I want to see rainbows. And so I was on the train at the time and I sat down on the train. And then a woman comes on the train and sits right across from me in a full rainbow dress with a full rainbow tote bag. And I said, all right, I guess I'm going to India. So that's when I booked the trip, having no, traveling to India alone when the furthest I had ever been was like the Bahamas. And I had never even taken a Kundalini class. But what ended up happening was that vacation radically changed my life just by saying yes and following my intuition and the signs. In India, I decided to quit my job. I decided it was the time for me to end my relationship and like fully lean into trusting the universe. So when I came home to Boston, I ended up having nowhere to live, no job, no relationship. And at that point, the next thing that made sense was go to an Airbnb in Vermont. So I found an Airbnb in Vermont that looked really cute. It had tiny houses and alpacas and all this kind of stuff. And I just went, trusting my intuition. When I got there, a woman greeted me and she said, "Do you want to join a meditation the next day?" And I was like, "Heck yeah. I just been meditating every day in my yoga teacher training. Like, yes, please." And so I went the next day and it was in a circle, a group of like 10 people. So beautiful. And at the end of the meditation, someone made an announcement and said, "We are currently looking to hire a marketing intern. I just quit my marketing job in Boston, and the pay will be a place to live on this retreat community in the middle of Vermont on a farm. And you'll get free food and you'll be able to live in community." And I said, "Yes, please." So by following my intuition, everything in my life was removed and everything in my life was replaced with the next step without me having to think about it at all. Just listening, trusting, and following. After that point, it's been a series of me being really, really brave and doing the things, forgetting completely and contracting and going back to the old ways. And then I joined Shira's class at a very contracted, hard point when I wanted to remember all of my power within myself. And so, that is, I think, my gift. My greatest gift is I have like experiences that have given me full faith in the universe. And I'm able to help other people who have really hard time trusting the world outside or within themselves to find that faith and remember their own intuition and guidance system. And I feel like from Shira's class, I was able to reclaim that power.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And I love that you shared the part where you had gone through periods of anxiety and depression. And I feel like in those moments, it's when we're suppressing our intuition and our emotional center. And I feel our emotions are very connected to our intuition. And I also appreciate that you shared the periods of these expansions and contractions. And as you released, it was replaced with what was in alignment or what you actually needed at that time. And how we go through periods on our journey where we're led to other people to guide us back to our own intuition, and how now that's gone full circle and now you're doing that for other people as well. That's so beautiful. Can you tell me more about the services that you offer and what somatic practices help you and then that you use to help other people get back in their body, feeling safe with their body and tuning into their intuition?
Okay, yes. So I have known for a while that my work is in connecting people with their energy bodies in order to rediscover their guidance system. So I train people in Reiki, which is an energy healing system that has changed my life, and I've seen it change other people's lives. And that's kind of the first step, is kind of connecting with your energy body, the subtle energy that runs through all beings, all entities. And then I also teach people how to listen. I believe we each listen uniquely. Some people receive guidance in like physical signs in the world, seeing numbers, seeing feathers, seeing things like that. Some people receive guidance through their dreams and have a very like vivid visual and like kind of clairvoyance visions. Some people receive guidance through art, through creating, through writing. And then others receive their guidance from their body. It's very somatic, it's very movement based. So anyway, learning kind of like your love language, quote unquote, but for your intuition is part of what I like to help people do. And then working with them to be, once they do start listening, to trust that. I had a really clear download recently of this 90-day workbook that I'm meant to produce. That's all about how to listen, trust, and follow your intuition. So that's something I'm going to be working on over the winter. And then a 3-month version of that where people can work with me directly for 3 months and go on that journey. But really, like, my goal in life is to teach people how to be their own healer and their own intuitive guide so that they don't need people like me, so that they can like be fully empowered and realize we all have these powers within themselves.
It's amazing when you connect with a leader or a coach or a guide who then isn't making you dependent on them. It's not this codependence, like you need me, you need to have sessions the rest of your life. It's meant for a short season to help empower them back to themselves and reconnect them back to themselves.
Exactly. I feel like that exact thing is really where religion gets it wrong. I'm a super spiritual person. I'm a super religious person. I believe that we can connect with God in nature, in singing, whatever that means. And to me, God is just like this ultimate source. I just like using that word because it's powerful. But yeah, when you go to a church or like a religious place, oftentimes it's like everyone bowing down to this one quote unquote enlightened person who's connected with spirit, but we're all connected with spirit. And so remembering like we are the temple, we are the altar, we are the God, and reclaiming our own divinity within ourselves, in a humble human way is really, I feel like, the thing where sometimes the teacher or the religion gets it wrong, in my opinion.
Absolutely. With plant medicine as well, I know you and I both have had experiences with different plant medicines, and I was doing a clinical study where there was a chance I would get a placebo, and it was for 5-MeO-DMT, and I was so excited because I had gone through healing and then I had backtracked a little and I was led to this medicine and I was like, this is the thing that's going to heal me. And then I ended up getting the placebo and I was so disappointed because I was like, I need this medicine to unlock the next level in my
Mm.
journey. And it was through that experience where while I was sitting there and I knew I got the placebo because nothing was happening, I had this intuitive message come through and it was, you are the medicine. I shared that with the facilitator and she was like, I feel like this is a big message for you. And that's what I feel you are also sharing with people too. They are their own medicine. They are their own guru. They are their own guide and coach and teacher or whatever people are looking for outside of themselves. For you to be able to lead them back to their own inner wisdom is so incredible and really does empower people to get more into alignment and to completely transform their lives to where they're not relying on, like you said, religion, where it's like, I need this savior. And I feel like a lot of people are waiting around for someone to come save
Mhm.
them, or they're waiting for the right relationship or the right job or whatever to finally be happy or to start taking action. And it's by being present with where we are now and being in our bodies and listening to what's coming through is where we are going to be led to take those next action steps. I
Yes.
wanted to ask what else was coming up as you were saying that. Have there been times in your journey where you felt so confident that it was your intuition, and then later on, you maybe feel like it was something else other than your intuition? Maybe a limiting belief,
Mm.
or maybe falling into people pleasing where you convinced yourself it was your intuition, but maybe it was actually what you felt was best for someone else. Did you ever experience anything like that?
Yeah, I think I have definitely had experiences where something felt really, really strongly attractive, and then realized that it was like old patterns that were attracting me to a person or a place. Or I felt a strong draw, which is the what, but the why is unknown, and the why could be hard. I've had my intuition guide me into situations where it like completely uprooted and created a lot of chaos, and then turned out to be exactly what I needed, but it wasn't easy medicine. You kind of, when you surrender into life, there will be a lot of times that aren't easy medicine. So yeah, definitely experience things like that for sure.
Thank you for sharing. And then what else was coming up that I feel led to ask you? What do you do to spiritually protect yourself? And can you explain the importance of that, especially for people who are empaths and pick up on energies either in their environment or from the people around them?
Mhm.
What would you recommend as a form of spiritual protection? Or what do you use to protect yourself spiritually and psychically?
Yeah. Yeah. So a quote is coming to me where, okay, New Year's Eve last year, I was in this song circle and we were singing until like 3 a.m. and I felt so full of like divinity. I felt like I was like 10 feet bigger around my center. I was just so full of light. And this man who I was singing with, he like looked at everyone and he said, I am a spiritual warrior and compassion is my sword. And that just like really sticks with me. And I believe the only protection we need is remembering our divinity. When I am feeling depleted, fucked up energetically, whatever that looks like, as soon as I can remember that I am part of source, God, divine being, nature, the cosmos, and close my eyes and literally scan my body and like do something like saying, merge my brain with God, merge my heart with God, merge my nervous system with God, and literally feeling it filling with light and fortifying, then it all dissipates. It all goes away. All the ideas of like entities being attached to me, or it's like it's not even true anymore because I am one with divinity. So for me, it's about remembering the truth with a capital T, which is that I am spirit in this human form facade. And yeah, calling my power back.
That's beautiful. I want to sit with that for a second. I'm feeling myself, both my hands are on my womb space right now, and
Mm.
I what I'm seeing is something about our womb space being connected to our intuition. I'm seeing it as when we choose to allow other energies or people to enter us, how it's also important to do the clearing too. When we realize we may not have been standing in our power in certain areas of our life or in certain seasons. And then later on, we realize how we have either given our power away or opened ourselves up to someone who wasn't in alignment, how there is the power in like cord cutting and womb clearing. Do you have any advice for someone who feels a lot of stuck energy in their womb space? And how does
Mm.
that relate to their intuition?
Yeah. I think being really noticing and being with yourself and feeling where you have stuck energy, and then bringing the light and remembering and energy back to those places. There are so many different ways to do that. Some people might do like smoke cleansing or crystals that, like obsidian kind of cuts through energy. So there's so many ways of doing that. And ultimately, what it's doing is it's removing density so that light can remember its place. And I believe that one shortcut of doing that is remembering that the truth of who we are and allowing that to fully embody. I don't always live from that place. So for me, it's about like noticing, like, for example, this morning, all last night actually, and the day before, I was feeling really heartbroken, a lot of grief coming through me. When that happens, I feel really like pain at the back of my head where my head meets my neck. Like my nervous system gets kind of jacked up and dysregulated. A lot of tears and my heart feeling very open and tender. And so allowing that to move through me. And then this morning, I was doing like a meditation where I was merging all of these wounded parts of me with source, with God. And after that merging, that remembering, I then felt fortified in all the places that felt blocked or stuck. So I do think it's really, really important to notice where in your being feels blocked or stuck, and then doing the practices that really resonate with you. Some people, it might resonate with energetic cord cutting or envisioning light or crystals. And for me, it's like just merging with source. And that's been really working for me. But I think ultimately it gets to the same thing. Yeah. So like being really honest with yourself about what feels true for you and the state of your inner being, and then empowering yourself to take action.
Thank you for sharing that. What was coming through as well is generational healing and when we do tap into the source energy, and I'm seeing it as the quantum where everything's interconnected, and I'm seeing it as past, present, and future, and everything in this interconnected web. So when you do tap into that and you do have things that are coming up where maybe you feel like I've done so much of my own healing around this, and sometimes it feels like it's not even your own, in a sense, energy. What are your thoughts on like breaking generational curses or clearing? I'm hearing like witch wounds or things from our ancestors. Do you have
Mm.
anything that's coming up around that? Or have you gone through periods where you felt like you were tapping into either past pain of your own from other lifetimes as you are intentionally merging together aspects of yourself? And do you feel like some of that is ancestral healing as well?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like so I think the biggest thing you can do is be aware. Notice the patterns that are showing up in your life, be curious about where they might be coming from, and then not letting yourself feel stuck in those patterns. Because if you believe that you're stuck in your patterns, you're forgetting your divinity. Divinity is never stuck. Divinity has the power to dissolve all patterns, illness. I have a pretty radical idea around this because I've experienced it in my own life, helping me through like seemingly impossible situations. So I think becoming aware of something, and then I always pray and ask for help. I will literally say, source, angels, I might say it out loud, like, please help me. I'm noticing that I feel very codependent in my relationships. I want to feel empowered. I want to know what healthy relating feels like. Please show me the way. Please inhabit my heart. Please inhabit my choices. I think for me, awareness and prayer, and then empowered action, just being aware of it and being like, what kind of choices do I want to make? And can I allow myself to make those choices? That's what I would do. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Patience was coming up as you were saying that too. Do you have anything to
Mm.
add about patience? So as people are surrendering and letting go and
Hmm.
trusting, how does patience tie into that?
My gosh, yes, yes. I am 5 placements in Capricorn. So for me, patience is a big lesson. Being humble is a big lesson. Because it's hard for me to have like a beginner's mind at anything sometimes. And I'm talking all these things because I've walked through a lot of life to like know these things. And I'm not an expert. I forget these things and I have to relearn them all the time. So let me just preface it with all of that. Somebody said to me, like, okay, when you learn all your lessons, then maybe you just die. So what are we doing rushing through it anyway? Um, Basically, I think it's all about like easing your own suffering. And if we are forcing ourselves or shaming ourselves or making it want to be faster, it just leads to a lot of suffering and pain. I think being as ambitious as your like energy level and spirit and safety level is, moving as fast as your slowest part, someone said to me once, and just trusting, like, okay, it's not within my journey to have this all done today. So let me just be like grateful for what I am aware of today and what empowered actions I do feel safe to take today, and trust that, the rest is coming. I think trust and patience go hand in hand.
Absolutely. And with that too, so on the form that I had you fill out before we got on the podcast, there was a question about radical self-acceptance, and I was led to come back to your answer for this question. And you talked about how compassion melts shame, and shame
Mm.
blocking our access to the soul, and self-acceptance is being able to see ourselves through the eyes of God and reconnecting us with our soul. And I know you've touched on this already with merging with our divinity, merging with source, merging with all that is. Can you expand on what you were saying about the compassion, melting away shame, and how that does block our access to the soul when we do allow ourselves to feel shame, maybe that we're not going at the pace we wanted, or it's not coming into our manifestation in our reality as quickly as we would hope, how would you move through the shame or the self-doubt or self-sabotage?
So I want to explain like my brain when I wrote that, like the reference point that I was writing it from. I'm reading this book called Tattoos on the Heart, and it's about this incredible man, this priest in Los Angeles who leads a church that openly welcomes gang members from multiple gangs in Los Angeles. And it's all about welcoming these people in who society casts out and seeing if community acceptance, like complete acceptance of who they are, can heal them one by one. And what he was finding is that by teaching them that no matter what they have done in their past, God sees them with eyes of love, the same way he sees every other person. And that's what compassion is. No matter who you are, what you've done, love is equal. Love is unconditional. I love you exactly as you are, no matter how you're presenting. And when that happens, when we have that realization that we don't need to do anything to receive love, we don't need to be anything to receive love, like all of those, like forcing, needing, masking, it just starts to melt and we start to soften and realize, holy crap, okay, now that I don't need to strive or become or do anything for that ultimate goal, which is just love and acceptance, okay, who am I meant to be in the world? Who do I want to be today? Just like completely lowers all of those shields and the separation between us and the world. So that's kind of where I was at when I wrote that answer.
That's beautiful. And that reminded me of one of our phone conversations that we had where you were encouraging me to fully let go in order to step into a new beginning. And I know you've gone on a similar journey where you've reached a point where you felt like you wanted to completely let go of your past so that you can step into this new beginning. And with it being the 1111 portal, which is very powerful for new beginnings, how does that tie into letting go? And if someone is wanting to start this new beginning and they're struggling to let go, can you share a time in your life where you've fully let go and how that led to a new beginning?
Yeah, I want to like receive whatever story wants to be shared. So I'm going to take a second. Okay. When I got divorced in 2019, I felt very sure of myself and I was able to fully let go of that relationship. Right after I did that, I was driving on the highway and I was led to take an exit that I had never taken before. It was in New Hampshire. And I was then led to take a right on a dirt road. And I ended up at a horse farm. It was like that's where I was being led. And when I entered the building, the person said, "Okay, our next ride goes out in 5 minutes. Do you want to join the ride, the group ride?" And I was like, "Yes, that's I guess why I'm meant to be here." So the group went up ahead of me because I was kind of late, and I was able to go one on one with this woman, Jessica, this red haired woman who she and I were meant to have a connection. So I was recently going through divorce, and then I met this woman, and one of the first things she says to me is we were just talking about like life, and I was like, "Why are you here and what led you here?" And she was telling me how she moved here from California to New Hampshire. And anyway, without prompting her about this, she said to me something like, "Getting divorced 7 years ago was the best decision I ever made in my life." And in that moment, I knew it was a message from spirit saying, like, yes, fully let go. This is a confirmation. And because of that connection, I was able to fully let go. And because I did do that, I do believe my life was saturated with so much more meaning and beauty and connections. I've also experienced relationships where I did not fully let go. And it was painful and it was hard and new things weren't coming in. And it felt like I was literally dragging around a corpse behind me that I wasn't too afraid to let go of. And yeah, I saw like a huge contrast in the two experiences. So I guess I have personally experienced what it feels like to resist the flow of life and not let go. And I will say, no matter how scary it is, 10 out of 10, highly recommend just like being in the flow of life and fully letting go, because the universe always replaces, and not like with the exact same thing, thank God, but with the thing you need in that moment. And it could just be the exact person you are meant to talk to, an earth angel, or a place to hold you, or a course that's going to help guide you. But yeah, letting go really is the best way, in my opinion.
I feel led to ask you if the number 7 has significance for you, because I noticed you said Jessica talked about how 7 years ago her divorce was the best thing that happened. And when you were
Mm.
pulling up your deck earlier, there was a 7 in the center of it. And I felt led to ask, what is the significance of 7 for you? Have you noticed a pattern of 7 coming up? So,
That's interesting.
yeah, I want to see what's coming through, and then I'll share what was coming through around the 7 as well.
Yeah, so seven to me is, I think it's the Hermit and Tarot. I'm not sure about that, but that's like what's coming through. When I got divorced, I was with that person for 7 years, so that's definitely coming through. I know there's something called quote unquote the 7 year itch, which is kind of funny. But anyway, seven to me is the reason why I believe it is the Hermit, is because what the Hermit does is the Hermit lets go of everything in order to find the light within themselves. They are the wanderer alone in the woods looking for the light within themselves. And I believe that is what we are meant to do in order to remember our divinity, is, casting aside the external world, external validation, needing anything other than what's within ourselves in order to realize our own power. And yeah, I know that like seven is a very spiritual number, and that's all what comes up for me around that.
I was also seeing like a rainbow through the 7, and it was coming through as the 7 chakras as well. And I know
Mm.
you talked about going to India and doing a Kundalini teacher training. And this number of 7, I feel like alchemy comes up as well. And it's like alchemizing through the different chakras. And even the process of alchemy is 7 stages. And it's trusting that there's a process. It's not just like going from A to B, like without having these steps in between, where we might go into hermit mode, like a dark night of the soul. And then through that process, we're sifting through the darkness and we're finding our light again. And then we get to this point where we have this clear channel where we can hear our spirit. And have you gone through like a dark night of the soul moment that you feel led to share for anyone else who may be going through this period where they are feeling lost in the darkness, or they're having all these fears and limiting beliefs coming up? Do you feel led to share a time in your life and how you use that, or if there was anything in particular that helped you see the light at the end of the tunnel and to anchor in hope during those times where you felt like you were in the darkness?
Yes, again and again. Yes, yes. I don't know if I will ever not have dark nights of the soul, but I will say that the only thing that gets me through those moments is when I remember the truth, which is that I am never lost. I am always with spirit. I have temporarily forgotten my power. I have temporarily forgotten the truth. When I feel like grace is like what the word that's coming through. Grace is when you can go through the ups and downs, and in life with faith, you have grace, meaning you're never actually fully down or fully up. You're always fortified and held. And yeah, I will say, like, you know, I have a lot of faith in my life. And after I got that faith, I completely lost it at times. There was a time after a medicine journey where I had a 3 week long panic attack. I didn't sleep for 3 weeks during this time period. I was literally hospitalized for my own anxiety and panic attacks. And in that moment, I remember being in the hospital and looking around me, and people were really worried about me. And then I remember realizing, yeah, I have agency here. And I started slowing down my breath. And I started in that moment coming out of a panic attack after 3 weeks of being in it. So since then have healed in a really big way. This was 2.5 years ago, and I went on a very humbling healing journey after that. But I would say, like, whenever I'm in those dark moments, no matter what dark thoughts are going on in my head about how my life is over, how I'm never gonna, I'm always gonna be alone and no one wants to be around me and I don't belong here, whatever those dark thoughts are, whenever I can say, okay, I hear you, dark thoughts, and I know you're not the truth. The truth is, I am unconditionally loved. I am forever connected with spirit. I am stronger than I even fathom I am. I am full of radiant love, light, and truth bursting, at the seams. And so I can go through this darkness and, I can just trust.
Can you share more about your soul mission? Because I feel like there are people who are going to listen to this, and there's going to be something that you share about it where they're going to be led intuitively to connect with you. And I want to give you a chance to express authentically what your soul mission is and who you feel led to connect with now.
Okay. Specifically, I want to connect with people who may not have yet realized their full power and potential. I am specifically passionate about working with women, and those who want to learn how to trust their own guidance system. Maybe they have a pattern of looking to others to help them make decisions or to look to others to take care of them in some kind of way, either like from an emotional standpoint or a financial standpoint or, whatever it is. And I am, helping people to reclaim their sovereignty and power by realizing that they are an energy being and that all the answers they need are inside of themselves. They just have to remember that and learn how to listen and trust themselves.
Thank you for sharing that. With your own inner compass right now, do you feel led to share where you are being guided to next?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So, literally, this morning I had a meditation, and what was coming through is I'm meant to be doing these intuition activation sessions where it's a 2 hour session. And it includes energy healing, where we're using Reiki to activate your third eye chakra. And then an intuitive tarot reading where we learn to access your soul gifts and purpose. And then a practical coaching session where you will receive tools to connect with your intuition and the guidance that you received in order to take steps toward your soul's purpose. So that is like the biggest thing alive within me, hot off the press of 1111 portal. But yeah, basically just finding different inspired ways of helping activate people's intuition.
So where can we find more information about that? I know I received an email from you because I'm on your email list. Let's say someone is meeting you through the internet and through this podcast or through social media for the first time. How can they sign up for this? How can they connect with you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, great question. So at Reiki Boston, Reiki Boston is my Instagram handle. My intention is to become more active on social media, but please message me there. And my website is daniellereikiboston.com, and that's where all of my offerings are listed. So that's a great place to go if you'd like to get started. But honestly, my favorite ways to connect with people are messaging me. Message me, let me know what about this stood out to you, what is like radically alive within your soul, what is your deepest yearning, and figuring out the best ways to work together based on those truths.
Amazing. So if you are listening to this and you're feeling goosebumps or something in your soul is guiding you to work with Danielle, I highly encourage you to trust that knowing, even if you don't know where it's going to lead, just having that inkling or that nudge, it's so pivotal and transformative when we do listen to those inner nudges, even if you don't know how it's all going to play out. And so just trusting that and knowing that we all are navigating this web and this maze, and it's sometimes not until we get to the other side where we're like, okay, that's why I was drawn to listen to this podcast or drawn to a course or drawn to that intuitive session, and trusting that as you take the steps forward, the next step is going to reveal itself. Is there
Mm-hmm.
anything else that you feel guided to share with the collective today?
Yeah. All of your fears, all of your limiting beliefs, all of your resistance is not the truth of who you are. And whenever you have those thoughts, whenever you have those fears, just remembering that this is not the truth of who I am. The truth of who I am is so much greater, so much more reinforced and stronger. And get curious about that. Get curious about what is the truth of who I am. Yeah.
I love the part about being curious because that really does open us to look at our situation with that lens of grace that you were talking about in faith. It's not judging ourselves or shaming ourselves and coming to this place of acceptance. This is where I am, and noticing, okay, that's interesting. Why is this coming through right now? Or why did that happen? Or why did I connect with that person? And I love that you brought up the curiosity piece. Thank you for sharing
Mhm.
that.
The reason why I have absolute certainty that I'm doing what I'm doing right now and I'm on my purpose, my sole purpose, is there's a book in my house called the Book of Destiny. And it looks up your exact birth date. For me, it's 12/25/1988. So, like the exact day. And on that exact day, there's a little write up about who you're meant to be in this lifetime and some struggles you might have. And my soul fulfillment, it says in the book, is to teach other people how to use their intuition, which is exactly what I've been working on for the last 5 years. And it's like what I before this believed is my sole purpose. So seeing that in the book was like ultimate clarity for me.
Okay, and then what I also was having coming up at the beginning of our call that I didn't say, you said something about the genius, right? What were you saying
Mhm.
earlier? Do you remember how you
Yeah.
worded it?
Yeah. How we each have, so the card that came through is called Awakening Genius. And it says within each of us is a specific genius that we're meant to generate, a specific inspired idea that we're meant to take action on. It's almost like within our DNA and gets activated by our light and our aliveness. And if we trust that, then we're just like divinely guided to achieve our specific genius.
So lately, I keep having gene keys circling back through, and I looked it up one day, and there are 64 gene keys. This is another tool, just like astrology or human design, and it's called gene keys. And the very
Mhm.
first thing when you put in your birth chart information is this genius part of your gene keys. And this goes into the DNA and why we are here. And so I felt led to share that to you as well. I don't know if this is going to maybe give you clarity or like confirmation of what you've already been having come through. And there's so much to go into on this. I'm brand new to this. And I also feel like it's so important for helping us reconnect back into our destiny.
Mm.
And the first like three overall ones is this area of genius, love, and prosperity. And then if you scroll down a little, this is like all the free information. It has my life's work, what I'm here to do, my evolution, what I'm here to learn, my
Oh my
radiance,
gosh.
my purpose, what deeply fulfills me. And then it has this overview. And then there's parts that are already unlocked for the free version. I'm really tempted to buy like the paid version because I feel like there's so much here. And they also have this golden path, which is a step-by-step guide to your profile. I think it was this one that I clicked on where it will tell you the like sequence to go in. Is it this one? It actually might be the next one. But yeah, here's the Venus sequence, opening your heart. Let me go back real quick. Where was it? Think it was this, how to read your profile, and it gives like an overview. And I don't know if you feel drawn to sacred geometry. I'm seeing so much sacred geometry or even like the I Ching around here. There's an activation sequence, a Venus sequence, and a Pearl sequence. And somewhere on here, I'll have to find it, but it was talking about how it can, like, you can use it as a map. I think it's this one where it has you like start here and then you're going down to this one and then
Hmm.
it's like unlocking this one and then unlocking this one and then it like goes up. It's almost like I'm seeing it as a labyrinth or a maze or like a web to help people navigate when they do feel lost on their journey. Like, okay, where am I right now in my gene keys and being able to look back at what you've already unlocked and brought to light, like through shadow work. It's like the light is information of why we went through the darkness. And it's like navigating this darkness or like void and like uncovering who we are or remembering why we're here. And yeah, I don't know if this is resonating at all. I definitely felt led to share
Yeah.
this at the beginning of the call and I totally forgot. And then you said
Um,
the part about destiny in that book that was coming through for you.
yeah, so I definitely connected with my gene keys before and I totally resonate with this. And I was reading your genius and I was like blown away by the breath work you were just telling me about and what it says in your specific genius. Because it says something about learning how to find your center in the storm, which is literally the medicine that you want to offer to other people. Did you notice
Oh,
that?
I didn't. Thank you for pointing that out. And then I did write
Go
with the
down a little bit.
intimacy. Okay.
Okay, so right here, my life's work, being able to improvise in the present moment, you thrive in extreme situations when other people wilt, which is your grit, grow, rise. You have the gift of self-assurance, which suggests you need to have an occupation that challenges you to test your reflexes. When you are absolutely in your own center, nothing can disturb your focus and commitment for what's right in front of you. You will be a very effective in emergency situations, literally helping people when they're, in their chaos. And let go of planning. You have to let go of planning. Your gift comes when you are alive in the present moment, which means you can never plan what you're going to say or do. LOL. You simply have to see what happens. So, what I'm hearing from this is, first of all, to trust yourself, self assurance, trust the guidance. And you are here to help people grit, grow, rise, meaning going through the storm and finding their center. And that is literally the tool that you want to offer. So basically, like confirmation received.
Thank you for pointing that out. I haven't even, I know a couple months ago I read this and I haven't even drawn that conclusion. I did see the part about the intimacy, and I feel like too what comes through with the breath work is the union of the divine masculine and feminine energies where they're coming into union and building this intimate connection with yourself. And I also have shared before how I've felt drawn to like sex magic because by tapping into our pleasure and reconnecting within, we're able to unlock this like magic vortex where you can manifest anything. And
Mm.
so just trusting that as well, because I have periods where I doubt that, or I'm like afraid to share the intimate details of my journey with other people. And also, I feel like that's so important. And when I do connect with other people, I don't want just surface level. I'm like, let's go deep. Like, tell me
Mm-hmm.
what your traumas are. Tell me the shadow work you've done. Tell me where you are on your journey now and what have you learned from it.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Imagine the power that would come from each of us being self-assured
Mm.
that the guidance that we are receiving is authentic and can be trusted.
I love that. And reconnecting back to the work you're doing with the intuition, I feel like that's where we have that reassurance is when we are so tapped in and tuned into our intuition, then we know we have like that certainty and confidence that yes, this is my intuition, this is spirit led, and this is what I'm here to do and where I'm meant to be and who I'm meant to be.
Mhm.
I love that. You said you already have looked at your gene keys?
I have, not for a
Okay.
while though. So after this, I'm
Yeah,
going to look it back
let's.
up.
I want to pull it up now and see if
Okay.
this
I
that
love
pops
this.
up
Yes.
too.
Oh, down.
I'm sure it's going to relate to what has already come up for you. Uh,
Yay, this is so fun.
create my profile.
I love the who am I?
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So my
Yep.
deepest purpose in life is to manifest the gift of far-sightedness. To realize my purpose, I need to transform the shadow of opinion.
Mm-hmm.
For your
Yeah.
genius. Relationships, greatest challenge is to transform the shadow of opinion. That's interesting.
Great. Two for the price of one.
Right. Oh, into the gift of farsightedness. That's so interesting. They're like,
Yeah. So my genius is my love. I
yeah,
love that.
that's so beautiful. And the highest expression of my heart is forgiveness. I know you talk about compassion a lot,
Mm-hmm.
overcoming shame, and grace you mentioned today. I unlock my prosperity through my gift of versatility. I undermine my prosperity through the shadow of indifference. I thrive best as an entrepreneur.
Okay. Here we go.
Okay, so my life's work, what I'm here to do. A deep restlessness within you that will only find a healthy outlet through service is 100% you. Finding a way to improve some corner of the world, find causes that seem lost.
Yeah. Find a lost cause that appears dead in the water.
Oh,
Constant urge to rescue and improve can easily be directed through people I love. Okay. Codependency. Bring perfection to the world must never be directed into your personal life or it will reap the whirlwind. Interesting.
we both had some sort of storm or whirlwind. What also stuck out to me about yours is these are the kind of things you can really get your teeth into.
Mm. Yeah, I love to like super learn something and really like, yeah, embody it and experience it and be so passionate about it.
Yeah, like genuinely get a taste for whatever it is that you're diving into.
Yeah,
And then
it's
the like lost cause that appears dead in the water, like seeing this like rebirth, resurrection energy. Have you heard of, is it the desert rose? When you add just a little bit of water, it comes back to life. Yeah.
yeah, those are so beautiful.
I have one right here, table. But that's you, like you bring this like hydration or you bring back to life what other people may have thought was dead. Maybe they're disconnected from their intuition, and you add this drop of your own essence that is then revitalizing that disconnection. And they're like brought back to this own inner well to where then they're just like oozing out as this clear channel. Beautiful. Your greatest challenge is to stop interfering with the natural flow of your life. You brought up too how once you are in that flow, that's when things just come through in those miraculous ways. When you have that trust in yourself and the universe, and then you're tapped in, it just takes you into this sea of infinite possibilities.
Just trusting and patience.
You are here to move the world along. You must trust what your heart feels and your mind sees above all else. I love how it said your mind sees, not what your mind thinks. It's like
Hmm.
going back to the third eye.
The vision, yeah. Wow, so cool.
Take heart in what you know to be true. Stand fast in your vision of the future. One day, many people will understand what it is you are doing. Do you ever feel afraid to move forward because you're afraid not everyone or not a lot of people are going to understand what you're doing or like what you're
Mm.
communicating?
I sometimes the concepts that I'm noodling on are so big. I'm like, how do I express this into words? And when I'm talking about it, it's really easy for me to do it. But when I'm writing, sometimes it's like this huge vastness that I then have to like put into like words. And it feels so, yeah.
What was coming through? It's interesting because I pulled some cards too from my tarot deck before our call, and I believe when I did a reading for you, this card came out as well.
That's my favorite card of the whole deck.
This
Queen
one
of
was like,
Wands.
it was like the overarching theme of the reading, and I feel like for you, you don't even have to explain your magic in words. It's you being so immersed in your own magic is where you make the most impact. People are seeing you immersed in what you're doing, whether it's Kundalini, Reiki, or writing, or connecting with other people, or leading a workshop and being in that leadership role. It's you being so immersed in that present moment, being this channel for magic to flow through and spirit to flow through. That's where you make the most impact. It's not having to explain to other people, this is what I'm doing. It's you in the doing and being and creating that is making the most impact. And that's where you shine your
Yes.
brightest.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. One time during a mushroom journey, the mushrooms told me the only thing you need to do in this life is light up. The only thing you need to do is light up, and everything else will be taken care of. If you keep your light lit, it's like that's the medicine. That's the thing. That's the whole thing. And I light up when I'm like following my intuition and talking about it and writing about it and da 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 da. But if I think too much about it and I try to be this like perfect writer or this like perfect facilitator, it's like the light is squashed.
That deeply resonates. I was going to ask you what lights you up most. It sounds like for you, it was through journaling and through like sitting with your intuition and being in it.
It's like so many different things, but yeah, it's like being in like letting life be fun and alive and sparkling and like bringing that fun and aliveness to each present moment. Yeah.
What did you enjoy doing the most when you were a kid?
When I was a kid, I was such a clown. I loved like making people laugh and like being an entertainer, like clowning around. And I also loved to teach. Like I would set up classrooms in my room and exploring. I was like always like climbing trees and like being out in nature. And yeah, those three things I feel.
Yeah, I totally see that. Is
Yeah,
it nice out where you are today, like weather-wise?
kind of. Yeah.
I feel like it would be magical for you to get out in nature today and just like play with nature, whether it's like
Mm,
picking up rocks or like touching leaves if they're still falling or like putting your hands in water. I feel like it will just be very soothing for you today. For anyone really to get out in nature.
hmm. I love that. That sounds
Yeah,
like fun.
I think I'm gonna do the same thing before it gets too cold.
Yeah, totally. I love you.
I love you. I'm so glad that we did this today, and we have already been connecting, and it's so fun to see where you've already gone on your journey. And each time we talk, I feel so energized and inspired. I'm so grateful that you were willing to embark on this adventure with me on being on my podcast, even though I shared this morning, I don't really know where this is going to lead. And
Mm,
each podcast interview I have, it's like pushing through that resistance and just trusting that there's a bigger message at play, a bigger purpose, and it's not about me or my dreams or goals, although those are important. It's like really getting out of my way and letting whatever is meant to flow to come through and holding space for others to share what's coming through for them and being able to connect with each other is filling my cup so much. And I just really wanted to share my appreciation and gratitude for you trusting me and trusting yourself and coming on here and sharing authentically and sharing some intimate parts of your story. It means so much.
absolutely. Yeah, I feel like you're in some kind of magical portal because you're just trusting and allowing. So I know that this will be a magical experience for you and others.
Thank you. And for you as well. And I love hearing what's coming through and where it's leading you. And I'm excited to see in the hindsight where each of these different sessions led you or wherever you're being guided to see how that all plays out as well. Thank you so
Yay.
much.
Thank you.